Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm Wes Decker. Glad to have you along this week. And despite not, and I repeat, not getting my prescription for compression socks filled, I'm nevertheless now living in the seedy world of compression socks. When my left calf decided to swell up to 6 times the size of my right one, it sort of forced my hand to make the purchase and put on a pair. So after being shown the lovely compression socks display at Dick's, I spent $20 and took a package with Brett Favre's face on it home with me. They're not exactly the fashion statement I would choose to make, but hey, it's really not about that. I will say that when I was shooting soccer on Saturday, though, I did feel a little closer to the game. I'm just saying it's kind of been a while since I've worn socks up to my knees, probably like 1979 or so, but it's like dress code for soccer. Anyway, the good news is they seem to be working. The issue is, when do I launder them? After all, they're on my feet, and we all know how feet tend to react when they get sweaty, and then factor in the socks in a pair of moisture-trapping shoes. It's quite the unsavory cycle. So while contemplating all of this, I came across news of a new product which would allay all of my fears if I just had it now. It's called a robot dog. Outfitted with an odor sensor, a spin-off group of Japan's National Institute of Technology has invented said robot dog. Its purpose? To sniff your feet to determine whether they're aromatic, stinky, or something in between. The dog will then respond accordingly. For example, if you're good to go, it'll wag its robot tail. If your feet aren't odor-free but also aren't terribly objectionable, it'll bark. And if your feet are just plain ripe, it'll collapse and appear to pass out. What price do you put on proper foot hygiene? Well, the Japanese are hoping you say about $900 because that's what a robot dog will go for when they go on sale next year. In the meantime, I urge you to stay tuned to find out if any of my guests or colleagues collapse and pass out before we're through today. I'll put Herald Mail Insiders Bob Parsaliti, Kevin Dunleavy, and Dan Kaufman to the sock and football, soccer, and volleyball test, respectively, and they had no idea what they were getting into when Coach Peer told them to come to the studio today, but they're about to find out, and for their sake, hopefully, they're a little congested. South Hagerstown footballers Duncan Burnett and Chase Maloney are in the house right after this.
Champions are not merely born, they're forged in the crucible that is flag football. With equal parts turf, pigskin, and heart. That's why Buffalo Wild Wings donates to boys and girls clubs across the country to not only help thousands of kids learn about teamwork on and off the field, but to help them fulfill their destiny, to shred defensive lines, terrorize the secondary, and emerge bonded as true champions.
When you're sick or hurt and can't be seen by your regular doctor, you just want to feel better faster. Make a convenient appointment or simply walk into Meritus Urgent Care, where you can receive attention from our caring professionals, from sprains and strains to sore throats, earaches, and other ailments that are not life-threatening. Meritus Urgent Care has you covered with on-site labs and x-rays and much more. We're conveniently located on Pennsylvania Avenue in Hagerstown at the Sylvania Center. Feel better faster with Meritus Urgent Care.
Welcome back to the show. We continue now with football, and I'm joined by a couple of the South Hagerstown Rebels, victorious on Friday night over South Carroll, 48-6. Duncan Burnett and Chase Maloney join me now. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, doing great, and I know you guys have to feel a lot better after bouncing back from the week before the loss to Westminster. Duncan, I know that's not the way you guys wanted to perform, but tell me, what was the difference between the week before and this past Friday?
It was practice. Practice went a whole lot better. The week of Westminster, we didn't have that. We didn't prepare well, I don't think. Like practice-wise, we didn't practice that well. But then South Carroll, we knew that was what made us lose that bad. Like, we didn't prepare enough. So we had great practices, I think, last week, and we saw the difference.
Yeah, well, without a doubt. And obviously, you learned your lesson from one week to the next. And Chase, I mean, how good did it feel against South Carroll to get out to an early lead in that game and to sort of change things up a little bit? A lot of passes being thrown early. As a matter of fact, 3 in a row to you at one point.
Yeah, it felt so good. It helped us get our confidence back. I mean, obviously, we've been trying to be the best team we can all year and put in a lot of work. And having that first loss, it kind of made us think that we might not be as good as we think we are.
Do you feel any pressure at South Hagerstown, given the fact that the expectations have ramped up because of the success that your teams have had recently?
I think a little bit, but I think mainly we just kind of, we kind of love the pressure in a way. We really love the reputation that we've started to build at South High, and I think that's awesome. It really helps with our confidence, and we know the standards we have to hold ourselves to.
And Duncan, you've come through this South Hagerstown program now as a senior. Obviously, the games are kind of counting down for you at this point. So what level of importance do you put on each game when you go out there now?
It's crazy because you just feel it in your heart, because I've went to almost every single zero period there was, and every practice, everything throughout high school. It's just,
you're talking about everything that's football related, right?
Everything football related. It's just it's heart-pounding. It's just sad, that to think that if we don't make the playoffs, it's 7 games left.
And how long have you and Chase been playing football together? It's been quite a while, right?
Since 4th grade, since the Hagerstown Eagles at Washington County Junior Football League.
Now, how crazy is it, Chase, for you to think that this year, your senior year, you could really make a splash on the state level, potentially, in high school football, when you sort of harken back to the fact that in 4th grade you guys were first on a team together?
Yeah, it's just so awesome, because I've been through everything with Duncan, and just the fact that we've never really been on a really dominant team together, and now through all the hard work that us and our teammates and our coaches have put together, just having that opportunity to make a state run and just have that memory live on forever is really exciting.
Duncan, I know that Coach Peer talked before the season about the team not beating itself as the year goes along and making mistakes. And you come out in the first game and you force 7 turnovers. Then you go to Westminster, didn't really turn the ball over a whole lot, but at the same time it didn't go your way. So then you come back last week, 2 long interception returns for touchdowns. How much does that help the offense when the defense can put points on the board?
It helps us out a whole lot, especially especially the week before against Westminster when we were struggling offensively, moving the ball and stuff. I don't think last week we didn't struggle as much as we did. We're not perfect. Of course we're not perfect, but I think it helped us out tremendously, because that was 14 points that the offense didn't have to score.
And boy, that's a huge boost. And Chase, tell me a little bit about your transition this season from playing the quarterback position a year ago, kind of sharing duties there, to now on offense being a receiver and one of the main targets so far here through 3 games.
Oh, it's been awesome, and it's been a great journey. I've always been an overall football player and just known a lot of different things about the game, but being able to learn an entire new position, and Coach Clancy's our quarterback coach, but he's also our receivers coach, and from going to one side of the spectrum to another with him is really, really cool. And he can teach me and Timmy a bunch about both positions. I bet even Timmy could get out there and play some receiver, and he would be pretty good.
Well, you have a lot of versatile athletes on that team, so I don't think that would be too much of a stretch to say that. Well, I hope it didn't smell like too much of a locker room in here today. You guys weathered the storm, and certainly appreciate you being here. Good luck on Friday night against Spring Mills and the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll be back right after this. Another football segment coming up. Bob Parsaliti joins me for that in just a moment.
Want the latest new release movies today? With Movies on Demand, you'll get these titles before Netflix and Redbox.
She did something to me.
Captain Underpants, you can't actually fly!
I take to the sky like an ostrich!
What are you?
In the name of all that is good, your wrath upon this world is over.
Watch the newest collection of movies on demand before Netflix and Redbox.
Labor's Office Furniture now has a large selection of in-stock FlexSteel home furnishings. After 43 years of establishing itself as the place to find top brand office furniture at warehouse prices, great deals on FlexSteel home furnishings have come home to Labor's. Stop in to see Labor's FlexSteel inventory today.
At Hamilton Nissan, we know you've got places to go, so let's travel together. The Nissan Rogue, plenty of room for you, and plenty of room for him. With nearly 40 cubic feet of cargo space, everyone will be using the Rogue for everything, all the time. And on occasion, you'll find an evening for yourselves, and the Nissan Rogue will be right there with you. Hamilton Nissan. Let's travel together. Come see us on the Dual Highway.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, more football now. I'm joined by Herald Mail insider Bob Parson-Liddy. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Thanks for having me.
It's always good to have you here. And the St. James Saints, that's where we start, because St. James just continues to do what they've done since game number 1. That's put points on the board and shut other teams down. A 40-0 win over St. John's Catholic Prep on Friday evening. Now 3-0. They've outscored the opposition 167-19. 3 more touchdown passes for Tyler Groshot, now has 13 on the season. But one guy that we really haven't talked about on the show is Jalen Anderson. And Jalen Anderson has been running the ball better than any other back in the county to this point.
Well, he has. I mean, he's got a good amount of yardage. He's over 400. But he's been in situations where he really hasn't got or needed a lot of work. This was the first game that they probably started to establish him. I think they tried to establish him against Clear Spring, but he got established too fast.
Yeah, it was his own fault.
Yeah.
Long touchdown runs.
He is a good running back. He's probably one of the better ones in the county, and he continues to prove it.
Yeah, 137 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns on Friday in that win. Now has 6 touchdowns for the year, and St. James takes its perfect mark now to Baltimore coming up this Saturday at Frederick Douglass, a 2-1 team. Liberty knocked Williamsport from the ranks of the unbeaten 17-6 on Friday night. Everything seemed to conspire against Williamsport in that game, and it started on their opening possession with a couple of plays that, had they gone Williamsport's way, who knows? The first one was a play where if Jacob Ball gets another fraction of a second to throw, perhaps Ryan McLaughlin makes a catch right at the goal line. And then on 4th down, given just a little extra real estate, maybe Tyrese Campbell comes down in the end zone with Ball's 4th down pass instead of out of bounds. That could have changed the entire complexion of this game, but there would be more, a potential third quarter interception that slipped through the hands of a Williamsport defensive back. At worst, it was a turnover. At best, it could have been a pick 6 for Williamsport. And then Liberty on a 3rd and 15 in the 4th quarter, an improbable prayer that just floated out into the flat, wound up being a 17-yard completion. Somehow the Lions come down with that ball. They would go on to score again to go up 17-0. And I was on the Williamsport sideline, and Coach Small lamenting late in that game when they were down 17-6 that it was just too little too late. And that's basically the way it was. They were 1 play away all game, Bob, and they just could not get it done.
But you can say ifs and buts because of, if they caught this, if they did that. But 4 turnovers and a lot of drop passes, and that's the difference in that game. I mean, they obviously played well enough defensively to, anytime, especially in high school, if you got a team that, defense that holds 14 to 17 points,
yeah,
you should win games.
Well, that's the truth. I mean, 4 turnovers, that's self-inflicted damage right there, and Williamsport needs to get that cleaned up. There's no doubt about that, and now they're on the road, take their 2-1 record to 2-1 Allegheny coming up on Friday. North Hagerstown over Century 17-14. You covered that game, Bob, and the teams combined for 3 touchdowns in the final 3.5 minutes of the first half, as North went from leading 9-0 to trailing 14-9 and giving all that momentum away. So a North team that has been doing that now for several years turns it around then in the second half and ultimately wins the game. How did they get it done?
Well, first off, the momentum switched on after they got to 9-0 because the ensuing kickoff was returned 94 yards for a touchdown. So that right away puts them on their heels. Then it's a quick series, and Century scores with like 10 seconds to go, and they go up 14-9. The second half, both teams were very one-dimensional, it seemed like. But the difference, I think, it was North's defense and the way it played, because they shut them out, and then Jay Naz, I forget. I wanted to say Jay Saw, but he sort of came of age, I guess, because that last drive he really engineered it. He pulled off 2 4th down plays to get first downs. They brought Jacob Sprecher back into the game. He was he ran well early, and he ran on 7 of the 12 plays in that drive that led to the touchdown. And Melendez just, hit a couple of out patterns and scored the touchdown set up by Sprecher. So they did a good job of keeping the ball, and the defense did a good job keeping Century away. They turned Century into a throwing team, and they weren't that accurate.
And North still not forcing the turnovers on defense, which certainly would help their cause. But nonetheless, that is a huge boost for North to get to 2-1. But now they will go to Walkersville on Friday night. Whole different beast there against an unbeaten Lions team. It was Boonesboro over Brunswick, 27-0. An interesting game in that the Warriors score on their opening drive of the first half, opening drive of the second half. They had a couple of other touchdowns, but just sort of plodded through it there in Brunswick to get that win.
Yeah, it wasn't what you would assume it would be. I mean, Clayton Anders after the game said that Brunswick is getting better, and they were concerned about how much they've improved, and it was almost like everybody believed that but the Boonesboro players.
Yeah.
All the coaches were worried about it. They tried to warn them about it, but it didn't seem like it came through until there was a little bit of need for urgency.
Boonesboro's first shutout since week 3 of last year against Brunswick, and now Boonesboro at 2-1 Friday night against 3-0 Middletown. Going to be a challenging week overall for Washington County football teams. And then Clear Spring losing to Northern Garrett 50-7 on Friday night. It's the Blazers' 9th straight loss dating back to last season. Meantime, Hancock fell at Capital Christian 22-0. The Panthers have now dropped 5 in a row dating back to last season. The good news, 2 teams meet this coming Saturday, so something good has to break for one of those teams when they get together on WCL TV here on Antietam Broadband. Coming up on Saturday, 12:45, we'll be on the air with that game. I know you'll be covering that one, Bob. Should be an interesting matchup because it's always a big rivalry because of the geographical similarity between the two schools and the fact that they both have similar sized student bodies. So somebody's got to come out on top. We hope for a competitive game, and we'll talk about it next week. Bob, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'll be back right after this. We've got soccer on the show in just a moment. Kevin Dunleavy joins me for that right after this.
Premier concentration. Premier confidence. Premier achievement. Premier martial arts. Concentration, confidence, and the ability to achieve is in every child. Premier Martial Arts brings it out. Call Premier Martial Arts today to bring out the best in your child.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue with soccer now, and joining me for this segment, Herald Mail insider Kevin Dunleavy. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Wes.
Let's recap the battle for Hagerstown from Saturday. We start with the boys' semifinals, finally able to play those as they were rescheduled because of weather from a couple of Saturdays ago. In the first semifinal, it really turned out to be no contest. St. Maria Goretti over Grace by a score of 10-1. The Gales, yes, they spread the scoring around, 5 different goal scorers. James Searcy scored 5 goals all by himself in a dominating effort by St. Maria Goretti.
Yeah, they're definitely the class of that tournament, it looks like, and they're off to a really good start, 5-1-1, I believe, and Searcy is an unstoppable offensive force, so no surprise there.
Yeah, just an incredible talent in many, many ways. Didn't even start in that game, and yet 5 goals before it's over. The second semifinal, much more competitive, actually a very compelling game. St. James and South Hagerstown. Teams came in with just 1 win between them, and South was playing its 4th game in 5 days, so you might think that fatigue would factor in a little bit, but Coach Mills got his guys to rise up when they needed to. South got the early lead, up 1-0, but then Ryan Stakes with a couple of goals for St. James to make it 2-1, and then South finding the answer. Austin Walter with his 2nd goal of the game, and then Junior Kolabali making it 3-2, and South would make that stand up, and this has to be a confidence builder for the Rebels going forward.
Yeah, I saw them play twice last week, and they played tough. They were better than their record, certainly, and it's good to see them get a win and get some, get something out of the week.
And as Coach Mills talked about after the game, he said, we have to be realistic with what we've gotten in playing in this new conference. There'll be a lot of difficult opponents down the road. The season's gotten off to a tough start. So to attach ourselves potentially to a tournament where there is a championship at the end of it, which this Saturday, it'll be St. Maria Goretti and South Hagerstown for that tournament championship. You know, that's big for South Hagerstown. You kind of have to start small and build from there.
Yeah, and it's a game that they can really think about winning. It's not it shouldn't be a big mismatch. The records are different, but Goretti plays a much easier schedule, so it's hard to tell what might happen there.
Over on the girls' side, the championship match pitted Clear Spring and South Hagerstown. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when the teams won their respective semifinal matches. And South with a surprising win in many circles over St. Maria Goretti. And Clear Spring just kind of doing what you would expect Clear Spring to do, given the team that they have this year that we talked about in the preview. Now, Clear Spring since then had suffered some defeats, but they had played some tough competition. Yeah. South Hagerstown also had come up short in some games, but on Saturday night, Clear Spring got off to a good start early in that match, and that really forced South Hagerstown to try to come from behind, and that's really not the way this Rebel team is constructed.
Yeah, so, Clear Spring just has too many weapons for a team like South, and veteran weapons, and I think that's a big difference because South is still very young and depending way too much on its goalkeeper Tyra Martina, who's a really good player, but just not enough depth around the entire field for South.
And Clear Spring able to spread that scoring around, really showing the depth that they have this season, showing it off in that championship match. And I think for Coach Albert, that's a good thing because anytime you can get players involved in scoring goals, boy, nothing gets you more interested in playing soccer than seeing that ball go in the net and then getting the W at the end of the night.
Yeah, and last year they were kind of almost one-dimensional. Gabby Conrad seemed to be their sole threat. She scored 17 goals and had 1 assist last year, and this year she's really being a playmaker and distributing the ball, and it's made them a really dangerous team because they've always had several threats there.
Yeah, I thought Megan Stouch played very well in that game for them. Maggie Elwood, also Carrie Knotts, who is just a freshman, playing very well in that contest too. Congratulations to Clear Spring winning that city championship on Saturday night. So that's it for soccer for now. We'll revisit what goes down in that championship match for the boys coming up this Saturday. Kevin, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Wes.
I return in just a moment. Dan Kaufman joins me for volleyball right after this.
Antietam Broadband's Flight Gigabit service is ultra high-speed internet delivered by a direct fiber connection. We are one of the few communities in the country to have it. But what does it mean? It means businesses will want to move here, which means more jobs, better jobs. It means access to world-class infrastructure for healthcare, education, and nonprofits. It means enhanced social and economic well-being. That's why it won the 2017 Leading Edge Award from the Chamber of Commerce. Flight Gigabit from Antietam Broadband, changing how people connect.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. I'm joined now by Herald Mail Assistant Sports Editor Dan Kaufman. Welcome back to the show, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Time to bring everybody up to date on what's transpired in volleyball so far. Last time we talked about this, we were sort of looking into our
somewhat foggy crystal ball.
Yeah, see, I couldn't even think of what it was because it wasn't clear. But now things have become a little clearer as the season has gone along. First of all, Smithsburg, a team that is doing exactly what we thought they would be doing.
No surprises.
Yeah, 4-0 to this point. Actually, a big match coming up on Friday, I guess to some degree, against undefeated Heritage At home, two undefeated teams going head-to-head there. Last year they played, and Smithsburg won in 4 sets at Heritage. So now it's Smithsburg this coming Friday.
Right. 3 of those sets were very close, too. Heritage really made a good accounting of itself. And Heritage has a huge weapon in Michaela Hoy, who Smithsburg is obviously fully aware of. But Heritage doesn't have quite the same depth. Obviously, Chloe Prejean now at Maryland. So it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle, I think, this year for Heritage to hang with a really deep and talented Smithsburg team. But I love the fact that those two teams are playing against each other. Heritage is clearly the best private school in Washington County. It's nice to see them get a chance to at least show what they can do a little bit against a quality, more than quality, public school squad.
And for those of us who follow volleyball, it gives us a little opportunity to see, okay, what would it be like if Heritage were a team potentially in the conference in which Smithsburg plays. So at least there's a one-off coming up on Friday night. Meantime, North Hagerstown off to a 3-0 start. Swept all 3 opponents so far. That's one of those things that when we looked into that crystal ball, we were like, yeah, we could see this happening. How's it going to happen?
Well, it's because you believe in this coaching staff. I mean, Megan Crawford, Katie Eck, they always get a great team out of whoever the pieces are that are there. I mean, you should never, ever doubt their ability to field a very competitive squad. And so now we've got 2 offensive weapons who have emerged in Chloe Coulter and Drew Wallach doing their thing. We knew Sienna Starkey was going to be great on the back line. We knew Claire Knepper would be a quality setter. Now we know who their weapons are, and now they're the same old North that everybody's going to have to bring their best against, and that includes Smithsburg, that includes Williamsport, that includes anybody.
Yeah, I think that the Hubs are sort of serving notice right now. A couple of private schools that I'd like to touch on here, St. James and St. Maria Goretti.
Yeah, 2 teams that I honestly think these are the best squads that both of those schools have had in a number of years, and they're playing tonight just after we tape this, so we obviously can't mention much about that match.
But oddly enough, you'll see some of the highlights of that match in the show.
The miracle of tape television.
That's right.
But yeah, let's touch on both. I mean, St. James, a lot of these girls are familiar with each other. They have some experience there. And boy, they look awful strong. And then you got St. Maria Goretti. They've basically got a key newcomer in freshman Hope Levy Gaskins, who just put up double-digit kills and assists for them in a match. So
how impressive is that?
That's really impressive. That's tough to do. I mean, I know when you run a 6-2 set, obviously we've seen it with Heritage in recent years, but you don't see that very often, and especially not from a freshman.
Now that gets your attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Kirsten Erickson and Julie Swarner are old cogs there. They've been in that system for a while. They're playing well, and they've got so many contributors. I mean, I've got 4 other names here: Peyton Kirshner, Zoe King on the attack, J.S. Smith defensively, and Abby Michael with her serving. They're all making an impact, and Lauren Henry's obviously done an incredible job coaching this Goretti team. What a turnaround from 4-15 a year ago.
Yeah, tremendous starts to the season for both of those schools. And back to the public landscape, and Boonesboro at 3-1 right now.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I think what we've seen first of all is the emergence of an offense. I mean, Stacia Goligly, my apologies for butchering that pronunciation.
Yeah, I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah, and Allie Gettridge have both shown the ability to be go-to hitters in spots, and obviously when you have 2 hitters like that, tremendous advantage. Morgan Dyer's been serving her butt off. I mean, about an ace and a half a set, which for public schools is amazing. They've got a 6-2 setup with Gracie Crown and Cam Crawford doing the job setting-wise. So this Boonesboro team has shown quite a bit in the early goal, and a lot of reason to be optimistic.
Yeah, and then over at Williamsport, the loss of a key player and certainly a potential Player of the Year candidate in Kiara Lewis, suffering a broken pinky last Thursday on a block attempt against Middletown.
Right, yeah, this is just bad luck, and of course it can happen. I mean, finger injuries are, just the worst. But yeah, it's we hate bad news, but unfortunately Williamsport's lost their go-to hitter. It's not a death knell for them because they do have a lot of depth, and this is always a team that spreads the love around no matter who's there. They always have 3 or 4 attackers in the mix, and they've still got Alyssa Barkdahl, Emily Ernst, Lexi Schlotterbeck. They're all capable hitters. Obviously, when you run into that big match against a real quality opponent and you need a go-to hit, though, that's where Kiara's loss is really going to be felt. But this is still a solid team from the back all the way up to the front. They're going to be okay. It's just a question of can somebody emerge to give them that go-to look that they're going to need.
Yeah, it just certainly limits what they're able to do for sure, and some players are going to have to step up for them. Dan, thanks for bringing us up to date on volleyball. Does this look like a puppet at all to you?
How you doing, Mick Foley?
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, I just wondered. Probably shouldn't put socks on your hands. It's not good hygienically. Anyway, next week on the show, there will be no sock puppets. I promise that. So it's safe to come on back. We'll have week number 4's football for you, and district golf. We'll let you know which county golfers have punched their tickets to states. That's all next week on the show, and I'll see you then on the inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers, you gotta get up in the street.